All right, so continuation of my story. Where we are is now in between 10th grade. Um, I had already gotten in trouble, and now I'm at this juvenile detention center, and you know from there it's pretty much like if you're kind of in prison in a way. As I'd mentioned, you'd have to wear a specific dress code. You'd go in and you have to take your shoes off. You'd get uh, put up against the wall. You get patted down. You'd have to go through metal detectors and everything. And then really, I'm inside this commercial building, and it's pretty much like one or two levels, but in each spot is your different subject where you would learn. So um, there was a particular instructor or person in charge who immediately I saw him, I was like, whoa, this guy is someone I can look up to. He had played football, very very strong, very determined individual, and he was not gonna take any of our stuff because he knew what it was, and the situations, and he wanted people like myself who got in trouble to do better. So for the most part, I you know focused on, like, this is my only chance really to get through this, and I started applying myself by completing what courses I could. Now, as I've mentioned throughout this my story, is me learning about subject matter has not always been the concern, because I like a lot of subjects and I like to learn and I like to understand different things. However, when you get distracted, or when you are making bad decisions, or you're not focusing on the things that are most important, that leaves you open for situations like this where you can really get yourself in trouble. And um, you know personally, by being out there in that particular location, you want to basically follow the straight and narrow path, because you can easily end up in the jail system or prison or a lot of other things, and that's something that nobody wants to go through. And I pray for anybody who has experienced that, who thinks that their stories or their circumstances aren't important, but it really is important. And we're me I'm sharing a message, and it might relate to you and it may not, but as long as we keep an open mind to other individuals, and we don't judge them or condemn them based off of that, we people can change. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, because while I was out there, there were certain experiences where I was like, honestly, don't want this to keep happening. I don't want to keep failing in school. I don't want to keep getting in trouble in school. But I still had problems. You know, after a while, I got through that program, and there was a couple of people that I had met in there, and one of them played guitar, and we kind of talked about, well, maybe on the last day we would show up to play something. And unfortunately, what I did, because I made a bad decision, I knew that I had passed everything, I had completed what I needed to do, and on the last day I just didn't even show up. So I knew that I had let someone down, and I was pretty disappointed with myself because of that. Um, that was a bad decision, and I think the reason why in that situation was the commitment that I had made. I did not feel confident in my capability. I actually didn't know the material, and really, I felt that I would just be embarrassed showing up and making a fool of myself. And at the same time, instead of worrying about me and how I was going to feel, I I should have been there, because there was someone else who was also counting on me, and I let them down for for not a good reason, honestly. So, I hope that person out there, you know who you are. I hope you can forgive me for the mistake I did. That's not something I wanted to do to you. You were a cool person, and I'm very glad that I was able to meet you, as well as all these other people in the shared experience. Um, things didn't really get much better from there. I mean, the program was done, but the summer was pretty chaotic, because everything that I kept going through, um, it started to truly escalate, at home. There was a situation where me and my dad that I was living with, um, you know, we started arguing and fighting, and then I got to a certain point where I was, depressed. I was suicidal, and those are feelings that I've had, that have carried in most of my life. So, everybody gets down, everybody feels depressed at times, and dealing with everything that I was going through, I just, was being more aggravated and getting more down. And every relationship that I had, for instance, with the girl that I first started dating, she basically was cheating on me with someone else, to what I understand, because he was, someone that was on my team. um, but I just kept moving on. And then the the problem too was that people just, for some reason, had some type of feelings against me, and that was why I kind of got kicked out of the church. But I also deserved to get kicked out of the church because I, didn't do, I said a lot of bad things, right? And it's inexcusable what I did. Personally, it's not appropriate for someone to do those things. And it was really the relationship as well that was kind of straining things. Still, though, I take responsibility for what I did. And, you know, I always had a different type of, um, experience when it came to the beliefs that I have. And internally, I knew, that what I know was true because it was internally integrated into me, that, Jesus Christ did die on the cross for our sins, and God is the creator. And those are things I knew. And sometimes I felt that what was being said was not always what aligned, so I kept an open mind, right? But because of the situations that were happening, my mind was getting clouded by so many different things that I had to kind of start to question in a way, like, me and my dad keep fighting, right? And at this point I'm like, okay, this is my life. How am I going to be able to handle this, situation? And my dad kept pushing and pushing and pushing me, and eventually he got to a point where, he would lock his door at night because he felt some type of way about me. But I never, went or sought to create, violence. And I really started just sticking with Stockholm syndrome, where I'd come home and I would just stay in my room, or I wouldn't really do anything, because, I had to kind of walk on eggshells in a point.